The system for finding mental health care can be excruciating. Now imagine navigating that from the depths of a mental health crisis. Well, if you're watching this, you probably don't need to imagine that, or you have a loved one that doesn't need to imagine that. Whatever the case, I'm here today to aggregate all of my learnings from going through the system myself, supporting loved ones through the system, supporting people as a volunteer crisis counselor, and then a couple of the previous days full of research to put together essentially a choose your own adventure guide to make this as easy and painless as possible. That doesn't mean it's going to be painless. It's going to feel like climbing a mountain, but maybe it'll be a little better. I should now have a graphic on the screen somewhere unless I really screwed this up. Yes, I am reading a script. This is the most prepared I've ever been for video. Like I said, I've kind of designed this like a choose your own adventure flowchart type thing. So you can read through, you can pause it right now, read through. If you know where you land on the numbered steps, I will put chapter markers in the video and you can skip ahead to get advice for your specific situation. Or you can just watch the whole thing if you want to learn more about every possible resource that's out there, or at least every resource that I have found through my research. If you fall into sections 3 or 4, I've also written a template email. So even once you get to that point where you've found a couple therapists to reach out to, you don't have to write an email, because we all know those small things are those points where you're depressed or mental health crisis brain just goes, this is too much. So I literally wrote a template so you can find emails, copy that, paste it in an email body, fill out your name and a little bit of personal information, send it off to a bunch of people, see who responds. I will link a document in the bio for this video that has this flowchart, all the links to the resources I mentioned, and that email template. And I want to note that all of these resources are going to be focused on US offerings because that's where I live and that's what I know most intimately. So the first tier for where I can imagine people might be looking at this video are our crisis folks. So you are having a mental health crisis, you know that you want to seek therapy, psychiatry, psychology, whatever it is, but you're thinking, I don't even know if I'm going to make it through to that point, or honestly, I don't even know if I'm going to make it through the day. This stuff is hard. Things get really bad. And I want to cover our crisis lines. So I have recently been volunteering as a crisis counselor, and these lines are amazing. I'd never had any experience with this world before. Even when I was in crisis myself, I don't know why I never reached out to any of these, but I really wish I had now. We're given so much training and so many resources to be there, to listen, to support you. And there's not just like one crisis line. Most people know about the 988. If you're in crisis, you can just text 988 or call 988 from anywhere in the US, and you'll be put on a conversation, either voice or text, with somebody who will sit with you through your harder moment. But what I didn't realize is there are also a lot of community-specific crisis lines. So if you're a veteran, there's a veterans crisis line. If you are part of the LGBTQ community, there's an LGBTQ youth line. There is a line for trans folks. There's a teen peer line. And then I also found a list of international crisis lines. I know I mentioned this is a US specific video, but I found it, so I'm going to put it in there. If you're thinking, okay, I'm going to start this process, but I honestly don't know if I'm going to make it, the maybe 2-3 weeks it's going to take to connect, maybe even longer than that, to find and connect with a healthcare practitioner, don't wait. Call, text one of these lines. It's free. It is available 24/7. These people care so much, and it's anonymous. You don't have to give up any personal information. So yeah, I highly recommend that. And even if, like I mentioned, you do think that you're going to be able to get through the process to see to find and see a practitioner, keep these numbers on hand, just in case. You might be able to get through it alone, but why do it when there's somebody you can talk to? Okay, now we're moving on to the second tier on our flow chart. So if you have decided that you are not in immediate crisis, keep those lines somewhere where you can access them. But for now, we're moving on to you're feeling good to go and you're planning to use insurance. So if you don't have insurance, or for whatever reason you're choosing not to use it to pay and you're going to pay out of pocket, that's going to be the next tier on our flow chart. If you are planning to use insurance, there's a number of routes that you can go here. One is making an appointment to go see your GP, your general practitioner, your primary care physician, and have them then recommend you out. They will know. Oh my god, my cat is rubbing on the tripod. This is the culprit. We have 4 cats. Isn't that cool? One route you can go is to make an appointment with your primary care physician or your GP and ask them to refer you out to a therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever you're looking for. This can be really helpful in case you don't quite know what kind of care you need and you just want to tell somebody your symptoms and have them help you with everything. They also will probably know the practitioners in the area and can give you a pretty good connection. If you don't have a PCP, or if you don't want to pay the copay to go see someone, or if it just feels like too much time to make that appointment and then, that's a whole other can of worms. The other route you can go is going on your insurance site. This was also hard for me because I'm in the middle of a depression. I'm like, okay, I don't remember what insurance I have. Now I have to find my insurance card. Okay, I have some login for this online portal. I probably wrote it on a Post-it note somewhere. That one was a whole nightmare for me. So if you have easy access to your insurance site, great option. The sites can be really hard to navigate, but once you find the mental health page, they'll usually have a search engine where you can just click therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever you're looking for, and it'll give you practitioners that you're for sure covered to go see. If you're kind of in the position I was in where that feels like a lot, you don't really want to have to navigate an insurance website because they're notoriously difficult to navigate. Another amazing resource I found recently, it's an app and a website called ZocDoc. And what's great about them, I tried it out today. If you're on the mobile app, if you have access to that, you open it up. If you are able to find your insurance card, all you have to do is put your insurance card on a surface, type in your zip code, take a picture with your phone of the insurance card, and it shows you practitioners in your area. One thing to note here, I was finding for me that it was very rare to find someone that was in network, which just means they accept my insurance, it's guaranteed, I might have to pay a deductible, but it will be covered. Mostly I was seeing people who are out of network, which means they do not directly deal with my insurance. I have to double check myself that my insurance company will accept them and kind of work through that on the side. It's not guaranteed. You have to figure it out beforehand. It still could be covered either in full with a deductible or in part. And then there are also just out-of-pocket practitioners who don't deal with insurance at all, and you just have to pay out of pocket for them, which we'll get to in the next tier. So I know all of that sounds crazy intimidating, but we're going to break it down. We're going to get through this together. You got this. I know it's a lot and it sucks, but I just want to repeat what I think I already said in a previous section. I've been recording for a while now. I'm starting to lose my mind. But it is some of the most valuable work that you will ever put into something in your life. Therapy and psychiatry have changed my life. I had to go through this process when I was in crisis, when I didn't know if I was going to make it through the day to the next day. And I'm here 4 years later. I'm working, I'm taking classes, I'm doing a career change. I'm in my first relationship with an incredibly loving partner. And I'm happy most days. Obviously, not all the time. That's not the goal. It's not realistic. We're people, we feel things. But I don't know. I just want to put that in there as a reminder. Okay, getting back to the logistics. After ZocDoc, there are also so many other directories that have different criteria. I think I have a list of like 20 that I found, and they're all in the document linked in the bio of this video. One thing that's great about these directories is that most of them, again, are searchable by insurance. You can put in demographic information, if the gender identity, race, ethnicity, cultural background, like whatever aspect of a practitioner is truly important to you, you can search by all those characteristics. And you can also search by specialty. So if your crisis is surrounding depression, anxiety, if it's trauma related, if it is rooted in oppression or cultural systems, there you can find people who specialize in anything these days. It's really incredible. And so one reason why I included so many directories is because there are special directories for communities that these things might be more important to. So for example, there's the National Queer and Trans Therapists of Color Network. There are Therapy for Black Girls, which is a very well-known directory for Black women. There's a Latinx community directory. There's an Islam-based directory. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of different options. So yeah, if that's really important to you, there's those directories. And as I mentioned in the intro to my video, if you have looked through all these options, you get to the point where you have found a few practitioners you want to reach out to. I have an email template that you can copy, fill your name in, fill in the little detail section about your experience and what you're looking for, and send it off to just make that as easy as possible. So you just I would say pick multiple, paste that in an email, send it off, see who responds. I would say send it to multiple because you are going to get people who say, sorry, I'm not taking new clients right now. Some people just won't respond. It's not personal. It just happens. So yeah, pick as many as make sense for you and just send off those emails. Okay. All right, moving along to tier 3 on our flowchart of finding a mental health practitioner. So in this section, you are not in crisis, not in immediate crisis. You're here because you're struggling. That's, clear. But you've elected that you're going to be able to get through the day, but you're also keeping those crisis text lines on hand in case it gets bad, because mental health crises get bad, and it's good to be prepared for that. You have decided that you are not going to pay with insurance and that you want to pay out of pocket. I've split this section up based on income levels, basically. And I do want to put a little note in that it's really important to self-elect what you can truly invest in this process. If you can pay a higher rate, then you're helping provide access for people who really, really need to utilize the resources that are in the lower tiers. So, yeah, and I think some of these actually do an income screening. But just in general, I want to note, please just honestly use what tier you fit into, because yeah, we want to save resources for people who really, really need it. And if you are someone who really, really needs it, great, use it. Cool. Okay. Our first section, I want to talk about people who can reasonably cover about $100 or more per session. So if you are in this boat, you're going to pay out of pocket, you can handle $100 or more per session, then I want to go back to that ZocDoc resource I was mentioning in the previous section. ZocDoc is this great app and website where I love it for people with insurance because you can take a picture of your insurance card and it makes it really easy. But if you're also paying out of pocket, it's still super easy. You put in your zip code, say what you're looking for, and then you tell them how you want to meet. That's another thing to keep in mind. Therapists are going to want to know if you want to meet in person, virtually, or hybrid situations. And it gives you a list of people nearby that you can look through. So many of the other directories work the same way. Psychology Today is kind of the industry standard, but I also have listed a number of directories in the document that's linked in the bio of this video because there are a lot of demographic specific directories that offer selected practitioners. Say if you identify as Black, South Asian, LGBTQ+, a youth, there's so many identity vectors that these directories will hand select practitioners to be a part of that they know are trained and can really well support and aren't going to further traumatize people from certain communities. So I would check all of those out if you identify, if you see one where you identify with that community and that's important to you, you can use that. Or, just kind of the general bread and butter ZocDoc and psychologytoday.com. And then if you pick a few practitioners to reach out to, I have an email template that is also in the document linked in the bio. So you don't even have to write your own email. You can copy it, paste it in the body of an email, paste in the practitioner's email, fill in the blank space in the email template with your name and then a few details about what you're looking for. Boom. Send out a couple and you're on your way. The next tier, I'm looking at people who could invest somewhere between $30 to $100 per session. So this is going to be kind of middle income to low income people. There are a number of great resources here that are collectives or nonprofits that subsidize some of your therapy cost or just connect you with the therapists that are charging. Therapists, counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists. Actually, I don't know if psychiatrists are involved in this one. They put you in contact with people that you can see for about that range, somewhere between $30 to $100 a session, which is going to be about as accessible a cost as you can find, unless you do find free therapy, which we're going to get into in the next section. If you look at the document linked in the bio, where I have all of these resources linked and aggregated in one document, you'll find a section that says free or low cost options for low income folks. And that's where you'll find these listed. I found Rise Above the Disorder, Open Path, Therapy Aid, and Open Counseling. Those are 4 groups that do this really important work of helping people access care. And again, there's an email template in that same document linked in the bio of this video. So once you find practitioners that you want to reach out to, if you have to do this through those programs, you might actually not have to do this. They might put you directly in contact. But if you do have to email people, there's an email template that you can copy, fill in their information, mass send off to a couple practitioners. The final tier of this section is for folks where you're like, I need mental health care, I'm not insured, money is tight, I cannot spend a dime on this. And that is unfortunately a situation a lot of people find themselves in, and I have some ideas for you. So, first off, I want to also repeat, keep those crisis text lines, save them in your phone contact, have them nearby in case you need them. They're so life-saving. But in terms of finding a counselor, a therapist, a psychologist, again, I have a section for those groups that either subsidize partially or entirely therapy. So there's 4 groups listed in that section: Rise Above the Disorder, Open Path, Therapy Aid, and Open Counseling. They're all resources where you might be able to find free or very low cost therapy. If that doesn't work, or if you're working towards that and you want somebody to talk to in the meantime, there are such things as warm lines. I had never heard of warm lines before I started this work, before I started my volunteer work with a crisis line. So there's also something called a warm line, which is you're not in crisis, but you're getting there. You're really not doing well, and you need somebody to talk to. So it's very similar to what a therapist does. They're not supposed to be an option for long-term care, but if you need to talk to somebody while you work towards finding long-term care, they're a great option. I have 2 warm lines listed in the document linked in the bio of this video. One is actually a Bay Area, California resource, because that's where I live. You can try to reach out to them. I don't know if they have rules about who they'll talk to. And then there's also a friendship line, which is very similar to a warm line for older folks and aging folks. That's all I could find in terms of the warm lines, but we're going to talk about local mental health nonprofits in a second. And if they have a warm line listed, now you know what they are, and that's a great resource to use. And that takes us perfectly into the next bullet point, which are mental health nonprofits. So I cannot look up every single local nonprofit. I've named a few of the national organizations like NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. That's what NAMI stands for, which has a lot of local chapters. But there are so many local mental health nonprofits across the US that I just can't possibly know about. So I urge you to, Google a mental health nonprofit near me, and also Google community clinic near me. And those are 2 places that might subsidize therapy, might have counselors that you can see for very little to no cost. If they don't actually have those services, sometimes they'll have peer support groups, which is basically group therapy. A lot of people are kind of intimidated by the group therapy thing or by peer support groups. It can be really hard to walk into one, especially when you are struggling. I want to point out that, or share, I have been doing Al-Anon and ACA groups for years at this point, and they have been some of the most important pieces in my healing journey. They have mental health nonprofits often have peer support groups that are diagnosis specific. I cannot talk. So they might have a bipolar depression support group, a depression support group, anxiety, trauma, PTSD. So you can, even if you're still working to find a therapist or you've tried everything here and there's just no one for you to see, it's still a really good option, and you can find a lot of healing through those community group spaces. I mentioned NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. They have peer support groups, and they have a lot of local locations. And finally, for this section, I wanted to talk about 12-step groups. A lot of people who aren't super familiar with the 12-step groups kind of community just think of Alcoholics Anonymous, maybe Narcotics Anonymous. It's usually somebody with a substance addiction, or at least that's what I thought before I got involved with them. There are 12-step programs for like anything you can imagine. It's really blown my mind the more I learn about it. I have not struggled with a substance addiction myself, but except for video games. I was trying to think I might be a little addicted to video games. That's another story. I've participated in Al-Anon, which is a support group for loved ones of alcoholics. I have participated recently for the past year and a half in ACA, which is the Adult Children of Alcoholics program. There are meetings almost every hour of every day because you can access virtual meetings from all over the world. So literally any second of the day, if I find myself struggling, there's a place that I can log into, talk to people, listen to some readings, share whatever is going on for me. So if you can find a 12-step group that you identify with, and again, they're not going to ask you for proof, they're not going to ask you to show a card, but that has been a key part of my healing. That has been a lot of information, but we made it. We're at the final branch of our finding mental health care tree, which is number 4. You have looked through all of this and you're like, there's no way I'm doing this by myself. There is another resource for you. If you are too distressed, too depressed, you're just in the midst of this crisis and there's no way you can do it alone. You can't find any loved ones to help you, which is, a situation a lot of people find themselves in. There are counselors that can help you. So there's this actually, I don't know if it's a nonprofit, but there's an organization called 211, and they provide counselors to basically walk with you along this process of finding care. So if you've given this a try, it's overwhelming, I would try that resource out. I have not tried them myself, but they are a resource that is kind of approved by the crisis text line that I volunteer with. And then finally, I know that some insurance websites actually have chat bots or lines that you can call, and we'll talk you through this as well. I only know one person that has used that service and they weren't particularly happy with it, but that's just one example. We got through it. We got through that together. I really hope that if you've watched this video, you feel at least a little more equipped to handle this right now. I want to just repeat again, I know this is hard. Don't let anyone belittle that. It's hard for mentally healthy people to navigate the healthcare system. And if you're in the middle of a mental health crisis, I think I mentioned at the beginning, but this is going to be really, really difficult. But it's probably the most worthwhile work that you possibly will ever do in your life. I think I might be repeating myself. I've been talking forever. I don't remember what I've said. I'm going to repeat it again because it deserves to be said. I shared 4 years ago my crisis when I was in the middle of this, and I was trying to find mental health care. I needed a psychiatrist and a therapist. I was horribly depressed, but then also swinging because I have bipolar depression. And it was the middle of the pandemic. I was totally just going through it. And I remember I sat for maybe 4 or 5 days just looking at the printed out paperwork on my desk because I knew that I had to fill out the paperwork for my new psychiatrist. And that just felt like, it's such a cliche, but it felt like running a marathon, just walking a couple steps and filling out paperwork. So I'm not saying this can be easy, but what I am going to say, and what is the other side of my story, is that I have now been with those mental health care providers for 4 years. I haven't had a major low or a high in a very long time. I'm on medication. I am working towards a career change into this space because of the difference that it's made for me. I have a partner. I'm in a loving, healthy relationship. I'm happy most days. I guess I just want to impart to you that it's going to be hard, but it's so, so worth it. So keep pushing as much as you can. Use the resources here. Use the crisis text lines. Remind yourself what you're working for and why you're doing this. And if you absolutely cannot do it on your own, if it's too overwhelming, try out this 211 resource. And if somebody does try that 211 resource out and they want to comment and let me know how it goes, I'd be really curious because I don't actually have personal experience with them. But they are, I got them from a trusted place. So yeah, find the email template and the list of all the resources I just shared in a Google Doc that is linked in the bio of this video. And I hope that helps someone. I don't know. I'm doubting myself right now. I'm like, is any of this helpful? Hopefully. Whoever you are watching this video, you deserve a life that is manageable. You deserve to not be in emotional and mental distress. I don't care who you're watching it. You might think, that's not me, you don't know me, you're just making a blank statement. I don't care. I don't care who you are. I believe that to the core of my being. You have something that we need in this world, and we need to keep you around to see it and experience it. So, yeah, I wish you the best of luck. That's all. Bye-bye.